Hi, I'm Alvin, and this is Jamieson's Repair Shop. Today we're working on this 2018 Hyundai Elantra GL that has a 2-liter engine in it, and this engine needs a timing chain replaced. There's only one chain in this engine, so it makes it a little simpler, but it still is a time-consuming process. I have new parts here. I have a new timing chain, new guides, new tensioner, and some VVT solenoids. And when we get in there, we're going to check the exhaust sprocket to make sure it's okay before we proceed. So if you're getting codes P0011, P0017, those are timing related issues, and most likely you have a stretch chain on your car as well. And in some cases, you'll hear a rattling sound. This one didn't have the rattling sound, except for when you went to start the engine, you would hear it rattle. So let's get it up on jack stands, make it safe, don't work on anything, don't go under anything that's not supported by a good support, like a good jack stand. And then we're gonna pull off the front engine mount off this engine. And there's also a plastic guard underneath that has to come off so to gain access to the oil pan, because we'll need to take a couple of bolts out in there. But I'll show you, so just come along with the ride, and hopefully we can get this done in a timely fashion. So underneath here, I don't know if you can see it, along the perimeter, there's these little push pin, plastic push pins. And then there are, I think, 6 10mm bolts. So let's see if we can get those out. Actually 7 bolts. And there's some plastic clips where most of them are missing. So right in here, when the time comes, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm bolts we're going to have to take off that are attached to the timing case cover, but we'll do that when we get there. Right now, in order to take that engine mount off, I have to support the engine with my jack and a block of wood here. So don't jack directly with your jack on the, here, get yourself a block of wood. All right, so let's get the jack under the engine. I have a 2x6 here. I'm kind of centering it on the, I'm going to move this 2x6 a little bit this way because I need as much room on the front of the engine as I can get. So there it is. It's taking a little bit of weight. You can see, it might be able to see the engine go up. I don't know. But we have it supported now. And I'll make sure the jack's good and tight. And now I'm going to get some sockets and we'll pull the engine mount off. So the mount itself is in 2 pieces. I'm going to leave it joined with this bolt right here. And I'm going to take it all off in one piece. So there's going to be 3 17s right here and 3 14s. All right, Loctite. That one was held with Loctite. So that should be it. All those, so 3 bolts and then 3 bolts, 17s and 14s. And that will lift right off. And there's our engine mount. So set that aside. We'll have to take the belts off and we'll have to take the alternator off. I'm going to get this off here too as well. It has to come off to get at the coils. So with a 17 mil, you can lift up on this to release the serpentine belt. There. All right, so we've loosened the serpentine belt, and I'm just going to let it sit there for now. It's fine. This is where it starts getting very tight in these areas for doing these in-the-car jobs, in-the-car timing chain jobs. And but it's doable. Once the cover's off, there's more room. So what else do we have here? We have a ground strap to take off. We also have the alternator to take off. So I think at this point, I'm going to pull the alternator off. So this one's a little bit tight. So I have these hose pliers that work really well. So you can just grab, if you have something like that or a pair of channel locks, you just kind of gently grab it and pull it off. And it'll slip right out of there. All right, from there, we have to get rid of the harness. It's on a plastic clip that sits inside the alternator housing. Sits on top of the alternator housing, rather. All right, so we need to take the power cable off of the alternator. So I just had a screwdriver and I put it in here and just give it a flick. Make sure your battery's unplugged, guys. 12 to get the nut off of the power cable for the alternator. So we have to get this idler off right here. And that, I believe, is a 14. Let's try a 14 on it. Yep. So we have the idler off, and then we have another 14 here that's on the alternator. Get it out of there. Get at that with the impact pretty easy. Remember where these bolts go. This is a long bolt that goes right through the alternator bracket. Down below on this one, there are 2 more 12mm bolts. All right, I've got a ratchet and a 12mm socket, and we're gonna start taking those out. There's 2 of these down here, and these are just short bolts. Let me see if I can get the other one to make sure it's the same. I think they're only just little short guys, and they're in a metal bracket that holds to the bottom of the alternator in place. Just confirm that they're both the same, because if you have to put it back together, it's nice to know. Yeah, so they're the same. That's it for the alternator. Should be able to wiggle it out. Will it come up through here? That is the question. There now, that's out. Just be careful. Don't get too excited and start prying on these hoses, these lines or anything. You don't want to damage those. So this lift bracket can come out of there. You could take that off earlier than I did. So this plug for the sensor, I'm going to pull the bolt out of that because it has to be removed anyhow. And then it's held on this stud with a plastic retainer. The ground strap will have to come off, and that's a 10mm ground strap. Make sure you hook up your ground straps again, because your electronics need to have ground straps. These engines need to be grounded. All right, so while we're up here on the top, let's get rid of a few things. Let's get rid of this piece of the harness. So this goes back to the VVT solenoid right there. Same deal, it's held on with plastic clips. If you can get in behind them and push, there it goes, and that'll pop out. It's like a hook. So we got this harness, and you don't have to take the harness off any further than that. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take all the coils out. And they're just 10mm. Don't lose them, they will fall out on you. If you flip them up the way they are, put them in your bucket, remember what they look like. And then you can take the coils off, and if you take all the coils out together like this, you can flop them right over, and you don't have to do anything else with them. Take the dipstick out, like so, set it aside, someplace where you'll know where it is. I'm putting it right up there where I can see it. These 2 hoses have to come off, and this fitting right here, this connector. And this connector just pulls off, and there's another connector over here that just pulls off. You can go around and start taking out the valve cover screws, and that's 10mm. And I don't know how many there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 that I count. Let's see. 14. Now, when these are going back on, they have a shoulder on them, right there. So you can't over tighten the valve cover, but remember there is a shoulder. So when you are putting them down, use the correct torque, because you could twist those off. Because when it shoulders against the head, when you're putting it back together, it'll just snap the bolt off. So you can only go so far with them. Just go gentle. Now yours may be on a little more than this. This valve cover has been off before. So just be gentle with it. And then when you lift it up, there's some O-rings that go around the spark plug tubes. And that's it. Everything looks pretty decent. I'm going to set that aside. I'll clean it up later. So we're going to do this without draining any antifreeze. I'm going to attempt to do it. So I'm going to attempt to do this job without draining any antifreeze, but I do have to take this water pump pulley off. It would have been better if I'd taken it off when the serpentine belt was on, but I forgot to. So if you're like me and you forgot, you can just put a screwdriver through, rest the screwdriver on the lip of the water pump, and there's 4 bolts and they're all the same as that. So to make a little bit more room here, I'm going to take this apparatus off here. If that's a horn or what that is. Anyway, I'm taking it off. So I unplug it, and there's a 10mm on the strut tower. to get it off. So I'm going to take the tensioner off, and this can be on there quite hard. I had to use a small breaker bar and a snipe to break that free. And this is I'm using a T50 Torx bit. Long bolt, you can't mistake it. So once you get the T50 out, Torx, I'm using a 14mm wrench because it's tight to that line. So the wrench, I'm using an offset boxed end wrench, 14mm, to get in there and take the bolt, the back bolt out of the tensioner. So right there, there's always one bolt on these that you have a trouble dealing with. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to lower the engine back down a tiny bit. There we go. You just have to play with the engine a tiny bit here and there, and should be able to get that bolt out. There we go. It's a long bolt. And when you're working inside in the engine bay of these cars with the engine in, these are the things you'll run into. So keep the bolts together, those two. It's better to keep all the stuff in one spot. So now we have everything exposed on the top, right in here. I'm just going to leave this on for now. Actually, this could have stayed right on the cover. It's fine. Anyway, so we have all this exposed up here. So now I'm going to turn the wheel sideways, the passenger side wheel. I need to get at the crank bolt. Okay, these plastic covers, they're held on with little plastic clips. So I ended up taking a couple more clips off back here just to get a little more flexibility in that inner fender, plastic fender. Now I have access to the crank. So I have a 5/8 spark plug socket right in there. We'll pull that out. And I'll get this all loosened up. Careful not to twist sideways on the plugs. Go easy on them, don't break them. Spark plugs are expensive these days. All right, so we're gonna put this engine in top dead center on the #1 cylinder, which is the first cylinder on the front. This is considered the front of the engine here. So this is #1 cylinder. And in this particular engine, and like many engines in today's world, this is an interference engine. And what that means is that if I just take this timing chain off and not put it in top dead center #1, and I just start turning the crank, or I start turning these camshafts, even worse, willy-nilly without any kind of plan, I could end up damaging the valves. Because these need to be in the right place. So as soon as you start trying to turn one of these camshafts, once it's disconnected from the crankshaft, you could bend something, a valve. So on a non-interference engine, you could pull it all apart now, and then you could set up your timing by turning the camshafts and the crankshaft at any time you need, so long as the marks line up. But that's not the case here, so that's very, very important that you understand that. So get it on top dead center in #1, because that's where the timing all is generated from this engine. So they set it off #1, top dead center on the crankshaft. And I'll go through that when we get there. You don't want to be turning these engines, like these camshafts, on an interference engine unless you're turning the crankshaft at the same time, which means you have a timing chaining gear in place that's properly timed. So anyhow, if you're not sure if it's an interference engine or not and you're working on something different, just assume it is and do it this way. So put it on top dead center, a #1 cylinder, and that's where you have to go anyway, so we're gonna do that. I have a socket, it's a 7/8 socket because I don't have a 22mm. I'm using a 7/8. If you have a 22mm, use that. And we're gonna turn this until I get compression coming up in here. So it's on the compression stroke at top dead center. And there's some marks down here I'll show you after we get there. So it's gonna be hard for me to do much because I'm working alone. Normally I would put my hand over the piston. You can also tell by the where the cam lobes are. So right now it's in a neutral position. So I'm gonna test it, where's my long screwdriver, to see where the piston is, see if I'm on #1 or not. So I'm right there, that's #1 piston right there. It's all the way to the top. these cams aren't holding anything. So I've gone past a tiny bit, and you can see the mark where the timing chain will go, and there's a timing mark down in here that just went past. So I'm gonna back it up just a slight bit. There. So you'll see the screwdriver went up. Now, don't go doing this. Don't be doing this screwdriver thing and cranking it while you're cranking the engine over from piston to piston. This is only to test where the top dead center is, because you could bend something in there. So to me, that's kind of almost exactly where it should be. And the timing mark, this timing mark, which you probably can't see right now, but we'll see it with the cover off, is it's aligned where it should be. So we're at top dead center, number one piston, top dead center, right there. So get rid of your screwdriver, don't leave it in there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here now, I have my big impact, my electric impact underneath, because these can be very stubborn. So this is a time when you might try to get somebody to give you a hand. So then I have my 7/8 socket on the crank nut, which is a 22 millimeter. And I'm using a 1-inch wrench on the camshaft. So whatever that works out into millimeters, I don't know. But that's what I'm using, and it fits really well on there. So 1-inch wrench, and I'm gonna hold, I wanna hold the camshaft while I'm backing off that nut down there. Now, if this moves a little bit here and there, it's not a big deal, because you can, as long as you don't get the cams out of whack and everything. So it's a little bit awkward with one person, but let's try it. There she goes. All right, I'll drop that down, and then you can let go of the cam, and this harmonic balancer, if you guys can hear me, I'm up against the car here. This harmonic balancer should come right off, and I believe there's a key on it. No, there's a pin, sorry, not a key, there's a pin. So you have to make sure that when you get this back together, that pin lines up with it. You don't want that pin to be off and then trying to wrench that back down. You could cause some damage. So there's that, and we're going to be turning. I'll set that aside, the harmonic balancer. Good chance to look at the harmonic balancer. Take a peek at it. This one's showing a little bit of wear on it, but there's no chunks missing out of it. This is rubber. So this is an outer metal ring and a middle collar made of cast metal, cast steel of some sort, and it's insulated with rubber. And the timing case now has to come off. So I have a 12 millimeter on there, and I'm just going, just starting them a little bit, and to see if I'll need an extension on some of these. So the ones I don't need an extension on, I'm going to start taking them off. So this is going to take a few minutes, and if I run into anything terrible, like down in here where I can't get them, but so far it looks like I can. Yeah, I can reach these ones down in here. I just wanted to note that if you need to, jack the engine up and down. Just adjust the engine where you need to go. So I've dropped the engine down a little bit, and that gives me access to pretty much all the rest of these bolts. So this one feels shorter. It is. These bolts down here, these two, appear to be shorter. No, these are all shorter. All these lower ones, so far, I'm going to leave them right there until we get them all out, and we'll see. Let's have a peek here. This is important. You don't want to put, so that's a long one, that's a long one, that's a long one, and I can get my elbow up in here. That's a short one. And that's a short one. Back up top, now I'm going to bring the engine back up. So I can get at those 14 mil bolts. I'll just see if I can get them with the wrench. I'll just loosen them. That one's already, no, those aren't 14, are they? Yeah, there's the 14. 14. There's 14. And I believe that's a 14 in there. And there's a 14 here. Oh man, that's on there. Some of these are on there. All right, so I'm just gonna break this one free to take the strain off of it. And then I'm gonna go out, start taking these off. All right, so we have those ones. These are long. I'm gonna make sure they're all the same length. That one is, I'll put it there until we're done this comparison. This guy here is shorter. I'll leave him there. And this guy down here is shorter, and he's even shorter than this one. No, they're the same size, good. Now you'll want to go around and just feel around and look the best you can, because it's important that you have all of them. Get your light down in there, make sure that you have all the bolts. We did a pretty good job down below. Up here we didn't spend as much time on it. Let's see, I don't see any more. No, everything seems to be out. Now I don't know how loose this cover is. We'll see. Let me get I got my screwdriver right here. I'll just give it a little nudge with the screwdriver. Now this is, you don't want to break this cover, honestly. You really don't. So just, this is a time to not be rammy and pushing, and this is a time to be cautious. So I'm going to go underneath, and where that dowel pin is, I don't see another dowel. There's got to be one more. There's almost always two dowel pins. I didn't go underneath yet. I thought I would just try it with the pry bar up here first. I'll get these cables out of the way for you. So there's the bolt for the VVT solenoid. There's a bolt right there. So I took my long pry bar and I just put it in there and I gave it a little tap and it popped. So I'm going to leave that, and I see that the other side is still fastened on as well. And I can't really get in there to do much, so I'm gonna have to go on now. I'm gonna go underneath and check. But I do have it started up in here, but it seems to be tension on it. And the tension seems to be traveling down toward that pin. Okay, I'm on this cover. Now, everybody's gonna find this a little bit different, but I've been going around and I have a different assortment of pry bars. And I used that first one where I nudged it free, and then I set in a screwdriver in down here, and I have it started off that pin down there. But go very cautious with this. I can't stress that enough. So just be very cautious and try to avoid prying on the actual sealing surface. Now there's areas that aren't going to be sealing surfaces, but be very careful with this, because this can cause you a lot of grief if you get it wrong. All right, my light fell down. So where I'm at now is there's a pin. I found the other pin. It's on the other side, the other dowel pin, and it's over here, and it's right about there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but there's another dowel pin right there. So I just went and got a really short pry bar. It's nice to have a variety of them, but if you don't, you'll have to come up with something. And I'm going to get as close to that as I can get and pry. And there, it popped off that pin. So far, I haven't moved this. When I'm doing these pries, they're very gentle pries. They're not like, it's not time for a be He-Man. So now, this one here is left to be pried on. Now this area right here is not so much a sealing surface. You can also come in here gently. Try not to pry on too much in there, but you can pry in there a little bit against the case, and you might get it that way too. So that one down there is giving me grief down in here. And maybe if the water pump were off, it would have been easier. But like I say, gentle, gentle. So also, I cut the seal. I have a tool, I'll show you. I should have videoed it, but you won't always have this tool. So there's this, it's for taking windshields out of cars. I was able to tap that in along where the oil pan and the case meets. Now it seems like it might be still holding down there a little bit. So I'm going to go underneath, because it's off the pin there, and it's off the pin there. It seems like it might need a little bit of a nudge down below. So let me go down and see if I can do a quick nudge down there. There it is. Yeah. It didn't take much, just to pop it off of the sealant that was there. So let's see if we can get this case out. May have to adjust the motor a little bit. Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to take it down just a tiny bit. It's catching on the crank case. Try that. So I got the cover off. So the engine, I had to sit the engine practically like flat with the jack. So what I had to do was get it up and hold it with one hand and push the engine back with my long pry bar. A 2x4 or something would work fine against the water pump pulley, like so, and I was able to slip it past and get it out. So there it's out. If you take the water pump off, this would be easier, but it can be done without taking the water pump off. But I'm just saying that if you take it off, you have a little more room to work. So it's entirely up to yourself if you want to go through with draining the antifreeze and refilling it. But for now, here we are. Timing cover is off. Now there's also an O-ring here, and there's meant to be an O-ring there, so it must be still on there. Yes, it is. And there's an O-ring right there. The cover is off. That was a bit of a struggle, but it's off. So I'll be cleaning this old sealant off, and I have some, this is a Maximum Flex by Permatex. I'll be reusing that on there. There is a case-to-case sealant. It's very thin. This doesn't seem to be the stuff that was on there. The case-to-case stuff it's almost non-existent when it's on there. I think it's made more for transmissions and things like that. This seems like it had a heavy coat of like an RTV or similar to this stuff here. And up in these areas where it's heavier put on, there's a joint there, and joint there, joint there, and a joint there, and joint there, and joint there, and of course the bottom for the oil pan. Those all need to have maybe a little extra put on. So okay, I'm getting ready to pull the old chain off, but I just wanted to show these timing marks. That one there aligns with that one there, and that's the way they should be. That means the cams are facing the right direction. The crank, the dowel pin on the crank is in the straight upward position, like at the top, and there's a flat there to correspond with it. So that's how it should look when you're getting ready before you put the new chains on. But first, I want to pull this, loosen this bolt here on that timing sprocket for the exhaust. And also you'll see, I noticed I put some paper towel down there to keep anything from falling in the oil pan. Anyway, so I want to pull this off, so I want to check the dowel on this one sprocket. Once I break that free, get the torque off of that, we'll take the chain off. So I have a 14mm socket and a little breaker bar here. Where's my large wrench to put on the camshaft? Right here. I'm going to hold this, see if I can get this off. Ooh, I might have to put an impact on that. I don't want the cams to turn at this point. I'm going to go down a little bit further on this maybe. It definitely wasn't loose. There it goes. There it goes. So that'll need 77 pounds torque. We'll say 80 pounds torque when it goes back on. We can take this chain off. So we'll pull the tensioner off, which is way down in here, and I believe that's a 10 mil. So and then once the tension's off, this chain will go right slack. This could have some tension on it, so just watch your fingers when you pull it apart. There it goes, a little bit of tension on it still. So hang on to the bolts just in case you don't get new ones. There we go. And that is the tensioner. And yeah, I think it's very wise to replace one of those every time because these can fail. So now we can take the chain right off. Get rid of the old chain. Well, this sprocket, let's take a peek of what's going on in here. Why? Make sure it's going to be good, because if it's bad, we'll have to get another one ordered. Here it comes. That one is starting to fail. And the dowel pin is in the camshaft. Interesting. Well, that changes things a bit. It doesn't look like dowel pin wallowed out the camshaft. So I'll have to talk to the owner about this. I'm probably gonna have to tackle a new one. It looks like the pin, I think it's sheared off. It's just not holding anything. I can get that out of there. Huh, that could be a problem. All right. Uh-oh, I may have to I may have to weld something on that to get that out. I don't want to replace the camshaft. Well, interesting. Well, it can't go back together like that, that's for sure. All right, success. I got that old pin out. I used my MIG welder to put a few dollops of MIG weld on the pin while it was in the hole there. Oh, the torch fell down. And with it in the hole like that. And I MIG welded the gobs on top. And I was able to wiggle that baby right out like that. So now we're down to, what do we use for a pin? Well, I made this pin right here. Where's the old one? So this pin I made is a little bit longer. I made this pin out of a 3/16 drill bit. So it's a little bit longer than the original pin. I lengthened it so it wouldn't fall down out of the, it won't fall out of the sprocket if it lets go again. I don't think it will. I'm going to JB weld this pin into the sprocket. And I'll probably put a little bit of JB weld in there as well before I put it all back together. All right, so we're ready. I'll get that done up. I'll get the JB weld on this and this all put back together. All right, now when I get this in the car, I'll torque it down to 80 pounds, foot-pounds. But for now, I'm just going to get it so the JB weld hardens up. And we'll go from there. Let's drop this cam back in. Now, this cam, you can see it, because I took it out at top dead center, you see that or not, I need to put this cam back in. Nothing else has changed on the engine, but I need to put this cam back in for the timing mark to correspond with top dead center. So it was right there. So let's put her back in and it should fit. There it goes, get in the right spot. There now. I do have a little bit of, it's STP. I like that for assembly. It's goops on there pretty good. I'll just dollop a little bit on here in places. It won't hurt the engine at all. Nice to have a little bit of it left around. We'll put it on all of them. Just a little. Gives it something so it doesn't have a dry start. I have a little STP engine oil treatment on there. And now I'm going to bring the bearing caps in. So all of these bearing caps are numbered. And the arrow is toward the front of the engine. So this is a number 5 is what I'm using. And I've cleaned these out before I bring them over. So I'm just going to set them in place for now. We'll get that done. So I'll get them all over. So now I'm going to start all these and we'll be working our way from the center in a clockwise pattern outward. So let me get this started. We'll get them all kind of zipped down. And they're different sizes. I believe they're, what are they, 12s? I think they're 12s and 10s. And I'm just going to go around and snug them all up just to get them kind of all in the same spot. And you kind of want to do from the center clockwise out, working your way out. It's time now, we're going to change out these VVT solenoids. You might as well do it now because everything's exposed. This is as bare down as you're going to get. So the one for the left side of the engine, which is on my right, is a little bit confusing. But you have to envision this is the front of your engine. This is the front. So this is the left, that's the right of the engine. So anyway, so for the left side is a 918, whoops, see that, 918034. You can't mix it up. They're different shape. This one is straight and the other one has a 90 in it. And the one with the 90 on the right side of the engine is a 18033. So it goes over there. And like I say, you can't mix it up, so don't worry too much about it. But you do have to order the right ones when you go to order them. So it's pretty straightforward. Of course, you unplug the plugs that are on those. You've done that a long time ago, if you've gotten this far. And then you'll take your bolt out, set it aside, don't lose it. And they generally pull out pretty easy, but you might need to put a screwdriver or something behind it. We've got this one here. We'll pull this one out first. I've got it a little bit loose, but I just was remembering that I should actually clean around it some. So I'm going to give it a little shot of brake clean around both of them, because you don't want dirt down in there. So there, I gave it a little shot. I'm just going to wipe it around some, just so that it comes out cleaner. And then when you get it out, you can wipe off the area for it. So that's what they look like. This is straight. Like I say, you won't mix it up. So clean up the area a little bit. Before you take the valve cover off, before you pull all this apart, you could blow all this down. I should have done that and I didn't. That's on me. All right, I got my O-ring lube and I'm just going to put a little on the O-ring, but you first should, I guess, compare them. A good idea to compare them to make sure that they are the right ones. These look to be the right ones to me. Good idea to compare them before you start lubing them up and stuff in case you have to send them back. All right, so we're going to use these ones. I'll just put a little dollop of O-ring lube on there and then move it around. And I guess I could put it all over because this is going to go into they go into the block. So there, we got a little lube on. Push them in. Now you can use the new bolt if you want, or you can use the old one. I'm going to use the old one because I like the factory stuff wherever I can. All right, now we got it in there. Now these go roughly about, these are a 10 millimeter hex head. So they're about 8 to 10 pounds torque, foot-pound torque. So you can kind of just gauge that. You don't have to, I don't think you have to get a torque wrench out for that. Just a little snug is all that's required. And then we'll take the other one out. Same procedure on the other side, just clean it up, and then we'll put this one in. I'll get that done. Okay, we got the two guides here. So these are the closed guides. I like the closed stuff. This one here is 95761 by closed. That's a closed part number. And this is the guide that goes right here. It's just a fixed guide. And then this one here is just closed as well. It's a 95760, and that's the tensioner guide. And that's the one that only is fastened at the bottom and goes like that. All right, I've got the left-hand guide on. It's fixed. I'll have to torque those. And now I'm putting on the tensioner guide. Now remember, you'll have to salvage the bolt from the tensioner guide and these other guides. This is a specific bolt. It's got a shoulder on it. I think I mentioned that earlier. Anyway, and I put some STP engine treatment oil on both guides, just for a little prevention on engine startups until the oil gets to it. So I'll get this on and we'll torque them down. I'm going to torque them down to 108 inch-pounds, or 7 to 8 foot-pounds will work. I find the inch-pounds more accurate, that's all. I just need to get it on here. All right, my fingers are slippery because of the STP. All right, so the chain. So we're using a closed C515 timing and engine timing chain. And on this chain, on this company, and I think they're pretty much the same, there are two gold links in the chain that go like that, and they'll go on the yellow marks. I remarked one, and then there's one dark link right there where my thumb is. That goes on the crankshaft. So this has to go down kind of around and over and under and all that jazz. But I'm going to start right here. I'm going to put this gold link, make sure that it's over the crankshaft as well. There we are. So that one's on there, and I remarked that yellow dot. So what has to happen is, get it off of there, it has to come up around and around that tensioner guide as well. It's hard with one person to show everything here, but you want to get this side done all the way down to the crankshaft first, but it needs to kind of be in place ahead of time. All right, so I've been playing around with this timing chain. I got it mostly on. I started over here with this timing mark with the chain, the gold to correspond with the yellow mark, which I put on. There's a little hole there. But what you're looking for is the horizontal mark on the pulley right there. And underneath, when those two are aligned, the crank, sorry if it's jumpy, the crank has that yellow, that dot, that divot has to align with the black link on the chain. So I have that set up. So back up in here, I'm trying to get this dot right here to line up with this gold one. Now I have a pry bar holding the tensioner over. You can see it, holding the tensioning guide over in place. If you have two people for this job, it's better, but let's see what we can do here. So what I need to do, I'm going to hold tension on that tensioner, and I need to bring this exhaust cam over one cog without throwing everything out of whack. So let's see what I can do there. I got to let back off a little bit on the tension, but leave enough. I lost it on the other side. Two cogs, I guess. So now I got to bring this one back over without losing the tension on the crank. There it goes. Oh, no, gone too far. Right there. So now, if I can keep that in place, I can put the tensioner on. I'll have to double check. All right, let me go and double check to make sure that the black one didn't move. So let's have a look. Appears to still be on. Yes, it's still on. So that's good. That's the timing marks. So I can put this tensioner in place now while I have everything set. So everything looks good, and the bottom one's good. So let's get the tensioner out. So the tensioner is a close again. So it's a 95759 tensioner. So there's a pin in it, like a ring pin. You pull the ring and you pop. It'll pull this out and release this tension. All right, so don't pull this ring out just yet. Wait till you get the chain for sure where you need it, because you'll have to reset one of these, and it's not that bad, but it's why do it if you don't have to? So if I can get one bolt in started, that would be great. And I have to torque these. I think they will be torqued probably 108 inch-pounds as well, roughly 8 foot-pounds. There, 108 inch-pounds. The black link is aligned. Perfect. So now I can pull that, that pin out of that tensioner up there. So I'm going to go up top and do that. All right, so everything is aligned. I checked down below. It's all aligned. It looks good. I'll bring the light up here maybe. If I can hang on to it. There. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull this pin. If I can get in there to pull it. And there she goes. Everything's locked down now. I can get rid of my pry bar. And everything stayed. That's what the pin looks like pulled. So one more thing we need to do, we need to torque up that bolt, the exhaust cam bolt to 80, well I'm using 79 foot-pounds, that's what it requires. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to use the torque wrench and I'm going to hold the cam with the 1-inch wrench. I don't want it to move now, everything's all set. Now you can do this before you put the chain on if you're worried about throwing the timing out. But it should be all right. It shouldn't throw the timing out anyway because everything's all tensioned down. There we go. So 79 foot-pounds. Check it again. Yep, there she is. Good, that's on there. The next step is to roll this engine over 2 full revolutions and those timing marks should still align. So let's get that done. So now I'm going to go turn it 2 revolutions and these gold links will no longer line up with these dots after this point. There's a half. There's 1. So far, so good. One and a half. And that should be 2 right there. So let's see what we have. It's a little past. There we go. All right, so that went very well. It didn't even jump. That was nice. Maybe because I lubricated the slides, I have no idea. Everything seems to be still lined up nicely. Chain's good and tight. So now we're on a different cylinder. I see I have to clean this a little better right here. So let me get this cleaned up a tiny bit and we'll start putting the cover back on. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I gave the O-rings just a little bit of sealer, just a tiny bit. Take some of it off, a little bit too much there. And then I did a nice bead on the bottom, and I remembered these 3 areas here need to be done because they mate to the block as well. So I'm going to go get it back on. Now it's going to be wiggling it in, and you're going to have to do the best way you can. I found holding the engine completely horizontal, that crank pin will clear this. It's tight, but it'll work. That's the problems with doing it in the car. That's the way it goes when you're doing a timing chain job with the engine in. I may have to jack it up a bit. Oh, there we go. A little more room. Almost there. I can't see in there, of course. Lights, lights, lights. I'm gonna jack it up a little more. There it goes. All right, I just went around and did all the torquing. I torqued this one 8 foot-pounds. That's a 10mm head. All the 12mm all the way around are at 17.5 foot-pounds. And these large 14 mils, I'm going in at 37, 40 pounds, roughly. That's the only specs I could find. I just did a spec, torque spec for a 10 bolts, and that's what they are. They're M10. And I'll have to remember to torque that one too when we put the idler back on. That's it. Torqued up, and I'm gonna continue to put it back together, and then we'll, oh, there's one more in here. Almost forgot this guy. Yeah, he needs to be torqued too. There, perfect, got him. Don't forget that guy. All right, so we've got this all torqued up. This cover's on. Now there's a bunch of stuff to put together in here. It's the same stuff I took off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all that and save you guys the time of watching it. And I'm gonna put some sealant on these joints right here. And then I'm gonna put the valve cover on, torque it down. So it's time to torque up the crank nut. Now I have the mount and everything all on, so everything's in place. So what I'm gonna do, these are very difficult. Now you can go on the other side of the transmission and pull a little cover off, and I think you can get in there, but all I do is go like this. I use my pipe wrench, but I use a piece of leather right here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. There's a piece of leather between the lower jaw and the belt. I don't want to mar up the belt. I don't think it doesn't seem to ever bother the inside here. So I tighten the pipe wrench up, and I have my torque wrench set at 156 foot-pounds. And then I try to get a comfortable spot, and that's a little easier when you're not trying to film or video. And then I can hold the crank with the pipe wrench without damaging the harmonic balancer, because you don't want to damage that. Now, sometimes it helps to put it against the frame and just go for it. So I have the handle of the torque wrench against the lower control arm. And 156 pounds is a lot, but it has to be torqued down. This has to be torqued properly. There, 156 right there. And then you can just pull this back and it wouldn't have damaged anything. Good. Just inspect it to make sure nothing got broken. Looks good. Okay, time to put the timing cover on. Everything looks pretty good. I'm going to give it a little dollop of black sealant right there on that joint. And I'll grab the timing cover. We got the pan here, the valve cover. Now we're reusing the old gasket. If you want to go buy a new one, go ahead. But I find that these silicone gaskets are reusable to a certain point. And slip her on down like so. And we'll get the bolts in it, and we'll torque these bolts down to 8 foot-pounds. Then we'll get the spark plugs back in, the coils back in, and all that jazz. Gonna go run through what we did here, check it over. Ground strap is on, VVT and the back one's on the left side, VVT is plugged in, sensors plugged in, torque down all the valve cover bolts, all the spark plugs are in, and the coils are on and tightened down. These two hoses back on, the two plugs that we took out are back in. Alternators hooked up, both cable, high voltage, but the direct to the battery and also the sensing. Mounts back on, and I believe that is the horn, and it's back in there. So all that's left now is to give it a whirl to see if it starts. I left this off right now because I want to check for oil leaks until I get it warmed up and check for oil leaks. So I'll get that inner fender put back on, and also the skid plate underneath, or the guard. We're going to go give this a try. You guys watch the engine. If you see anything, yell out. Give me a wave or whatever, and I'll shut her down. But for now, we're going to get her fired up, and I'll come out and check for leaks and stuff. There. She had the usual chain rattle when she started, but she's running pretty good. I'll get a light here and see. You'll always seem to get that chain rattle when they first start. But she's running down quiet now. I'll go underneath and check. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it up to temperature, and I'm going to check the codes and everything. Anyway, she's running pretty darn good. No chain rattle. I hear the typical, the injectors and all the stuff that you normally hear. She's running very smooth. So I'm just going to bring it up to temperature and monitor some things, open my door so I don't get gassed out. But I don't see anything alarming so far. I'll go ahead and clear the codes for the owner, and then we'll go from there. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful to someone that has a 2-liter NU Hyundai engine, Elantra or whatever it may be in. And good luck with your timing change out. Thanks a lot.